Season 2010 started in turmoil for the Kangaroos as they travelled to a slippery AAMI Stadium to take on Port Adelaide.
Thumps it long and high. West off, Treadray, they're all up. Davenport stayed down. Brilliant tackle.
With their defenders under immense pressure, North was looking down the barrel of a 50-point deficit in the third quarter.
Runs in, slippery turf, has a bounce, has another. They cut the margin back to 34.
However, the Shinboners rallied late in the game, with the fast-finishing Roos having power supporters nervous as they closed to within 3 goals late in the game.
And then he should go all the way here. Thomas, he's got an empty goal square.
He kicked the last one, drives it through along the ground.
Good
They're
play.
back in this.
They certainly are.
But it wasn't to be, as late chances were missed. North eventually going down to Port by 14 points.
It's a loss, but some positives from it.
After finishing strongly against Port, North Melbourne went in confident that they could upset last year's grand finalists St Kilda. That confidence was quickly eroded by an 8-0 first quarter.
Home for his second. He's going to go right up the guts.
Hallelujah.
And he looks for Goldstein, and it comes off beautifully in a quick release.
Hallelujah.
To Thomas.
Bouncing back from that dismal opening, the Roos held their own in the second with 5 shots at goal and a more attacking mindset.
Over to Adams, who gets it to Hale, who goes into the pocket, and great transition from the Kangaroos, and Corey Jones will have a shot, albeit a difficult one. And he's threaded it through, and the Kangas are on the board at last. So Urquhart, the big load up to the goal square. Hacked out a minute. Great goal from Thomas.
St Kilda, however, proved too strong, with 7 final quarter goals handing North a triple-figure defeat. Desperate to atone for that humbling defeat at the hands of the Saints the week before, North Melbourne hosted the West Coast Eagles, both sides looking for their first win of the season. In a scrappy affair, North found its form after that horror opening fortnight, capitalising on the Eagles' skill errors to kick as many goals in the first quarter as they did for the entire game the week before.
Kangas get it back. Zeeble to Urquhart, jams it on the boot. Good kick. Goal!
After being restricted to only 5 touches against a rampaging Saints side, Brent Harvey was back. He was instrumental in the win, racking up a career-best 44 disposals for the game. He was well supported by so many North Melbourne players, North running out winners in a high-scoring game, 116 to 91.
The left boot, snap around the body, what a goal. Brent Harvey, an outstanding game.
After finding their form against the Eagles the week before, North returned to Etihad Stadium to take on the uncompromising Sydney Swans. It was a tight contest through the first half, with the Kangaroos going in at quarter time 2 points ahead and into the main change with a 1-point break.
Gee, Thomas. Does he deliver? Yes, he does, Jared. He gets their first goal. Kieran Jack. Beaten to it, beautifully done by Swallow. Releases Harvey, hit the post last week. This week, he kicks it straight through.
But after a fiercely contested opening half, Sydney was able to break the Shinboner shackles late in the third, kicking the final 4 goals in the premiership quarter.
Oh, they've won it here, Sydney.
Going into the last, the Roos were still in touch, but after being able to manage a single point in the final term, went down to the Swans by 40 points. After 2 weeks at Etihad, North travelled south to Launceston, the second home of the 2008 Premiers Hawthorn, on the evening of Anzac Day.
Looking fairly confident at the moment. North, Urquhart, and now McIntosh. They've worked it from defence. It's not through yet, now it is. Thomas stumps a long ball. Hale's been the man. He's the man again. To make it a 3-0 start. Straight over the goal umpire's hat.
Playing the Hawks at Aurora is no easy task, but the ferocious Kangaroos took the challenge right up to them, amassing a staggering 30 more tackles.
Warren, Adams, they've broken the line. Still no one to go to. Harvey back again. Hale, who'd like to be virtually where he's kicking to.
Hard run from Rawlings.
Rawlings is there. Can he get there? He will. Will he run on? No. Goes back to give the Kangaroos back the lead. Nice off the boot. scrapes inside.
In a spirited contest, the margin rarely exceeded 2 goals. But in spite of a fast-finishing Hawthorn, North held their nerve and ran out the game 12-point victors.
Does just that. In fact, the lead comes from Edwards. Goes in that direction, wheels around onto the right, and then just bombs it long, hails the target, hails the mark.
Returning to Etihad Stadium after that upset win over the Hawks, North faced Melbourne, who'd won their past 3 games.
And he drills it home. Kick wasn't great, really made Edwards work for it. Over the top, Goldstein, good vision to the run of Greenwood. On the left, he goes long, he goes for home, and taking the mark back with the flight is Daniel Wells. He's going to run around, you could see that coming a mile off, and he slots it home, back-to-back goals for North.
North led by 8 goals in the third quarter before the Demons piled on the next 6 to go into the last break only 14 points in arrears. With nearly twice the tackles and more than double the clearances, the 26-point win was done in true North Melbourne fashion. The shinboner spirit on full display as the Kangaroos hunted the ball and their opponents to record their 7th straight victory over the Demons, this time by 26 points.
Saturday special.
With 2 wins on the trot, North's slow-starting season looked to be on track as they made their way to the home of football to face the biggest and strongest club in the league. With the eventual premiers winning their past 3 matches by an average of more than 10 goals, the task looked daunting for the young Kangaroos.
But it's not about if it'll go all the way. Look for a goal, thank you.
While the first quarter was tight, a 6-goal-to-3 second proved too much for the Kangaroos.
Too much on it. Oh, that's too flashy from Shaw, but he used the 2 hands. Mick Malthouse won't be happy with that. As Harvey on the attack for the Kangaroos. Hits Hale. Gives it back to Harvey. Harvey goes to Warren. Warren should play on and kick an easy goal. He does.
In the face of an emerging powerhouse, North had no answers for Mick Malthouse's men. Collingwood running out victors by 66 points under the MCG lights. Without a win against the Crows for half a decade, history looked against North Melbourne in round 8.
Swallow stole it, sends it long, and in the blink of an eye, North Melbourne are in front. And a quick snap and a put away Lee Harding.
There is a lot of blokes running hard when they've got it, and a lot of blokes sort of jogging slowly when they haven't.
Edwards takes on Rutten, sends it toward full forward. Lindsay Thomas down, gathered his own crumb, and goal.
After controlling the game for 3 quarters, the Kangaroos looked to have the match sewn up with a 9-goal lead going into the final change.
Bounces inside 50 and says that's how it's done.
But in an extraordinary final quarter, the Crows piled on 7 goals to none. In the end, the Roos were able to hold off those fast-finishing Crows by 9 points and win a vital 4 points themselves.
Flicks it wide.
Heading into the halfway point of the season, North looked to test itself against the formidable Western Bulldogs, strengthened by the addition of big bad Barry Hall. Unable to kick a goal in the first quarter, North's inaccuracy cost them dearly as they went into half-time with the scoreboard reading 2 goals 10 to the Bulldogs 11 goals 1.
Has the run at it, takes the mark, takes out his opponent and gets around another before kicking the goal.
But the magnitude of the loss was overshadowed by niggling defender Scott Thompson getting the better of Barry Hall. Hall lost his cool and was booked for wrestling. Thompson was reported for headbutting and wrestling. Neither had a bearing on the result, with North down by 70 points. Looking to change their fortunes interstate, the Roos made the longest trip in the AFL to try and find another victory, heading to Perth to face the resurgent Fremantle at Subiaco. Another slow start proved costly for the Kangaroos as they managed only 2 goals to Fremantle 6 in the opening term.
Ball out in the wing, nursed a pretty ugly looking kick inside. Hayden just got tangled up a little with himself. Hale did well. Swallow to Harvey, the skipper from 30 and closing. They've had a couple of easy ones, the Roos.
But it was the third quarter where a young Kangaroo side was put to the sword, with Harvey's charges slamming on 10 goals to all but end the game. After the floodgates of the third quarter had been staunched, the final quarter was a more promising one for North, breaking even with a side enjoying its best ever start to the season. With the game lost again in the premiership quarter, Brad Scott was left to ponder how to arrest the massive losses his side endured in the first half of the season.
Just far too much left to too few, and the too few who it was left to were 20 years of age and younger.
After licking their West Australian wounds, North finally had the opening term they hadn't been able to produce all year, kicking 7 goals in the first quarter to establish an early dominance over the Brisbane Lions.
And it's his left boot. He's going to kick with a sock. He kicks a long goal with his sock.
No way.
That's crazy stuff.
At one stage, in the second half, the Kangaroos held a 44-point lead over the Lions and looked to have the points all but won.
Wellington almost grabs it, gets a kick towards goal. It rolls, it tumbles, and he kicks his first goal in AFL footy.
But after leading for 118 minutes, a gallant Lions outfit reeled the Roos in, amazingly hitting the lead with only 2 minutes to go.
Can they get up off the canvas?
Less than a minute after losing the lead, Levi Greenwood's mark deep in the forward line would result in a goal that gave North a 1-point victory.
To Greenwood to get the lead back from the pocket. Not bad, it's a wobbler.
It wobbled through.
In your dreams.
After that last gasp win over the Lions, the Kangaroos looked to upset the 5th place Blues, as both fought for a place in the top 8.
Forward. Harvey on the lead, 70 metres out from goal. Goes long down towards full forward. Awkward moment down there for Jamison. Thomas out of mid-air goal. Getting back is Thompson. He knocked it away from Russell. Slips a hand pass intended for Warren. Bastadak. Oh, what a goal.
For the second week in a row, the Roos were fast out of the blocks, kicking 4 goals to 1 in the opening term and going into half-time with a 2-goal lead.
Loves to run and burst, and then with a long ball inside. Good mark again. He likes the Blues. He's kicked that one well again.
After an even third term, it was the brilliance of Lindsay Thomas, who kicked a career-best 7 goals, that made all the difference. Carlton was held goalless in the final term, as North Melbourne beat a top 8 side for the second time in the first half of the season, this time running out victorious by 29 points.
That's poetic. Boomer.
With spirits high as they looked to force themselves into top 8 contention, North Melbourne looked for more points, this time against Port Adelaide.
Heads toward goal. Spectacular.
With the roof closed on a rainy Melbourne afternoon, North looked to string together its 3rd consecutive win.
McIntosh had the reach. And this for the biggest lead of the game. Punch it out to 13. That's the Levi Greenwood wobbler.
Leading at every change, the Kangaroos were impressive as they controlled the game from the outset, running out winners by 26 points, sitting outside the top 8 by percentage only. The veteran, the champion, Brent Harvey showed plenty of dash, racking up 32 possessions in the 7th win of the season for the boys from Arden Street.
There's your sealer.
3 wins, 3 weeks. Round 14 saw the biggest challenge for North as they travelled down the highway to face the reigning premiers Geelong at Skilled Stadium. While Geelong controlled the game from start to finish, the Kangaroos put in a valiant performance against their powerhouse opposition. After trailing by as much as 58 points, North were able to kick the last 4 goals in the match to put some deserved respectability into the scoreline. Geelong by 35 points. After a gruelling encounter with the Swans in round 4, the 2 teams resumed hostilities at the SCG as the Roos tried to find a way into the top 8. But it was a day to forget for North Melbourne. Key tall, Drew Petrie going off the ground with a suspected repeat fracture of his foot. He returned to full forward, but was clearly under duress. After trailing for the majority of the day, North were able to break the bonds in the 3rd term, but were unable to hit the scoreboard. With Petrie off the ground and Lockie Hansen well covered, North fell short of the Swans by 30 points. North Melbourne returned to the MCG to face Richmond in wet and heavy conditions to keep their finals aspirations alive.
Swallow feeds it forward to Edwards. Back to Swallow, takes a deep breath, puts it through.
Leading all day, it was the third quarter that set up the win. 5 goals to none, setting up the game.
Ball on the outer side, well done by Warren. Springs to his feet, hand passes to Campbell. Campbell is centering kick. Hansen in best position.
The Kangaroos were the better side all day, with their contested style of play perfectly suited to the soggy conditions. As their key forwards remained deep in the forward line, their small forwards allowed to roam further up the ground, a tactic that proved pivotal in securing the win.
Puts it through.
Huge leap over the top, Edwards again.
Round 17 saw the Kangaroos take on Essendon on a fast track at Etihad Stadium. In a shootout against the Bombers, the match was thrilling until the final minutes, with neither side able to break the shackles.
Greenwood pumps it long. Warren's waiting inside 50. He's got it.
This is a huge win for North Melbourne.
To cut it back to 9 at the big break. And Swallow knows it. Long to the square. Hansen, McIntosh, Fletcher, Harding, got a kick away. Goldstein, big goal, he runs.
Unfortunately for North, when the final siren sounded, they found themselves 3 points short in a high-scoring game where both sides topped the ton. An injury-ravaged North Melbourne had already made 2 changes to the side due to injury, but lost prime mover Daniel Wells 5 minutes before the bounce as he strained a quad, and David Hale was forced to be called up 15 minutes into the first quarter, despite playing a VFL match earlier that weekend. After their well-publicised first encounter, the rematch between the Kangaroos and the Dogs was always going to be interesting.
And then cross pushing forward. McIntosh again, Cooney, look away handball, but to McMahon, and McMahon on the left foot. So one-on-one, good hands, well done, and Adams. It would be a mark anyway. Wright got down and took the mark.
One step and away you go.
And that's what Sam Wright's done, he's kicked the goal.
The Roos were able to match it with the Bulldogs for the opening half, narrowing the lead to just 5 points in the opening stages of the second quarter.
He's through and will kick a goal. Harvey gets it.
After staying in touch with the Dogs for much of the game, they simply weren't able to maintain the pressure as the boys from the West led into the last quarter and then added 9 goals to 2. The result, a 71-point defeat. After being belted by the Dockers earlier in the year, the Kangaroos hosted Fremantle in round 19, hoping to reverse their previous encounter as well as keeping their slim finals hopes alive.
Oh, somehow it ends up with Wright. Wright kicks the goal. It wasn't copybook, but it's in the book.
After starting the season with poor first quarters, it was a different story closer to finals time, with North kicking 7 goals to 1 in the opening quarter and sounding a message to the Dockers.
7 goals for North.
They led at every change in a 54-point win.
McIntosh, wonderful mark, got up quickly, Harding involved again. This time, Harvey, you don't give him 2 shots in a 30-second period because he'll kick him.
It was a stellar performance from Brad Scott's Kangaroos, capitalising on Fremantle's poor ball use, scoring 15 goals from turnovers and bolstering their percentage.
Kicks are beauty.
After a 100-point thrashing to the eventual grand finalists earlier in the year, North looked to continue reversing its early season fortunes as they faced up to St Kilda.
So we let it go, and a fast start here for the Roos. In the pocket, Thomas, capable of those sort of things. Not far enough, around the corner, right, gets the first goal for the Roos.
It was a promising start for the Kangaroos, taking in a 7-point lead at the first change. But in a fiery second quarter, St Kilda were able to grind out a lead, kicking 7 goals to 2, with North Melbourne's 1-goal quarter-time lead turned into a 29-point deficit at the long break. In a seesawing affair, North fought back in the third quarter to leave a glimmer of hope going into the last quarter, but was again out-muscled by a battle-hardened Saints outfit, eventually going down by 52 points. Celebrating favourite son Brent Harvey's 300th game, North travelled to Subiaco to take on cellar dwellers West Coast. With their finals hopes dashed by a Hawthorn win in round 20, the game was all about saluting Harvey. a task that looked shaky after the Eagles got off to a flyer.
Kept it alive. Opportunity here. Warren runs into the open goal for the Roos.
But with a brutal hit on Lee Adams sparking the Roos, the second half saw a lift in intensity from Scott's men as they took a slender 3-point lead into the final quarter.
Good desperation here, the Kangaroos, to get that out.
It was. The Garlett kick is a ripper to Edwards. Edwards can go one-on-one to Warren. Look at that for a kick. That is magnificent. Gives Warren a chance. He grabs it, keeps it in, collides the post, gets up, kicks the goal. Remarkable recovery from Warren to kick the goal for the Roos. Go all the way here. Sends a long ball deep, and that is a great goal from Thompson.
The last quarter was a high-scoring one, with the Roos having the better of the shootout, securing a 16-point win.
Worked under it. Schofield and Spanger go at it. Neither of them get it. Edwards turns them around. Slicing handball to Warren. How easy is that? They're home now, the Roos. They lead it by 22.
With the outcome having no bearing on the finals, you'd be forgiven for thinking the final game of the year would be a dead rubber between the Kangaroos and the Demons.
A left-bending ball is simply magnificent.
In the last game of round 22, Melbourne and North Melbourne squared off at the G in a fierce contest that was a tight tussle from first to last.
Wright's got the ball. He says, how good's this? I'm a young player. I can run into an open goal and drill it home. Oh, boy. Wowee.
Levi Greenwood was a standout for North Melbourne, 39 possessions.
Bastanak blows one in, and Jones has taken the mark again, runs, plays on, kicks game 3 in the farewell game for Corey.
It was a positive end for a roller coaster season for the emerging Kangaroos as they set their eyes on featuring in September after missing out so narrowly in 2010.
Scully's chasing, Harvey takes into the cleaners.
It was a big game, 30-odd goals kicked, certainly high tempo from both teams and both young teams too.
Yeah, so from the first sign it was just all go, it didn't slow down all game, so yeah, everyone's just bugging now. It's good that we finished off the season the way we did, and yeah, we can't make finals, but yeah, it's credit to the boys, we just finished it off with our heads held high.